Disclaimer: this video contains extremely graphic content. If the sight of blood makes you squeamish, please do not watch this video. It was a beautiful fall day on Saturday, and the day started out just like any other Saturday. The horses were put out, everyone had their breakfast, and they were just out enjoying the beautiful sunshine. I could not believe how great and shiny Stanley was looking, so I did snap a few photos of him before I started getting started on the chores. And before I ended up having to put his fly sheet on because the bugs were starting to get quite bad. Smoke's mom was out of town for the weekend, so I decided to take a little video of him running and having a little play in his paddock. I did not think that this video would end in such tragedy.
Oh, Jesus. Oh! Ho! 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 Smoke! Shit. Oh! Oh!
Smoke has been here at the farm for 2 years, in the same paddock. Running and bucking and playing is nothing new for him. Smoke is a retired rope horse. He was retired due to a roping accident in which the rope came across his right eye and caused enough damage for that eye to go blind. He was a bit of a rescue type when he was purchased. It seemed he was just thrown out to pasture and forgotten about since he could no longer perform in his career. He had become pretty shut down. After coming to the farm, he continued to put weight on and started to look and feel better. He had many moments where he would spook or startle if there was a loud noise or if he was touched anywhere on his blind side. Over the past 2 years, he has learned to trust humans again and has really learned what love is. He no longer would startle and would finally let you touch his face and even offer cuddles. He's definitely the herd protector and he takes his job very seriously. He's always watching out for threats to the other horses. And if something were to come wandering into the farm that wasn't welcome, he would definitely be the first to scare it away. If I hadn't been watching when this accident happened and took action right away, I do not know what the outcome would have been. Many pasture accidents aren't seen, and that leaves the owners wondering what happened. Many horses that have this type of accident do not survive. Usually they will snap their necks upon impact, and that sadly is the end of them. I truly believe he did not see that tree. He was not spooked or upset. He was simply having a bit of playtime and just did not pay close enough attention to where he was going when he made that last turn. I abruptly stopped recording and ran into his paddock. He stumbled into one fence line and then the next, taking both of them down and scraping up his legs pretty badly. I knew I just needed to get my hands on his halter to just try and hold him still and see what the damage was to his head. As soon as I had my hands on him, he stopped and just stood there. His body was trembling and I could see the blood coming right through his fly mask. I lifted the mask to see the wound and was completely shocked to see a bone sticking out of his head. I had never seen anything like this before and quite honestly thought immediately this was the end. Standing there in the paddock with one hand holding his halter, I took out my cell phone and immediately called his mom. It was definitely not a call I was wanting to have to make. And I simply told her that Smoke had what he had done and that she needed to call the vet right now. I had never seen an injury like this before and he may not make it. Smoke and I stood in his stall waiting for the vet to come. It was about an hour of waiting. And I just held his halter and talked to him the entire time. I knew I needed to keep him calm and I wasn't sure, given his past behavior, if I'd be able to do it. The blood from the wound was starting to really come down his face and his nose also was starting to bleed. My hand was completely covered and the poor guy was just still trembling. I kept telling him that help was on the way and I was so proud of him for keeping calm and trusting me. This was huge that this horse was actually putting his trust in me. The vet pulled in and I was so happy to see her. The vet that was on call was not one that I had met before, but she definitely ended up being the vet that we needed to be there. He was then sedated and we had a chance to really evaluate the damage. He had fractured the orbital bone and there was a piece of the bone sticking right out above his eye. The best thing was going to be just taking that piece of bone out. From what we could see, it looked like the broken piece wasn't too large, but unfortunately, the bone ended up being a lot larger than we thought, and it took over 2 hours for the vet to get this piece of bone out. She had to cut away a lot of the tissue that was attached to the bone, and it was not a pretty sight. The face is extremely vascular, which means there was a lot of blood. Once the bone was out, the large wound was filled with gauze, and a couple of stitches were put in the corner of the wound, and then he was wrapped up for the night. That first night, we had a couple of really scary moments where he panicked, freaked out, threw himself down against the walls in his stall, and actually broke some boards in the stall next to Stanley, and then also broke his hay feeder. He was able to calm down after that, and he remained calm, but it was one of those situations where we had to watch him 24/7. We ended up spending the next 2 nights overnight at the barn just so we could keep a constant eye on him so he didn't hurt himself or any of the other horses if he were to panic. The next morning, he was able to see well enough that we could open up his back door so he could go out into his run out. You can see, obviously, he is sore all over his body, and it's kind of exacerbated his other, prior injuries that he's had, but he was very happy to be able to go out in his run out. He is receiving pain medication as well as antibiotics. As you can tell, obviously, the eye is the good eye. It has some swelling, and that is the issue. We need to make sure he is still able to see out of that good eye. The vet did come back the next day. She took the bandage off and then took all of the gauze that was packed into the wound out and cleaned the wound up very well. Then she went ahead and stitched up the entire wound, but also left a drain in there so it would be able to drain for a couple more days. Oh, sweetheart.
Easy does it.
Easy, buddy.
Oh,
good job.
It normally goes all the way from here to there.
that's the piece of the bone.
Yeah.
That is wild, isn't it? Yeah.
Might eventually need to come out too, but I think we'll leave it right now.
Oh, I know. Yeah, that's...
Well, if it needs,
wow,
if it
yeah, that's
ever
kinda
needs to come
jagged,
out in
huh?
the future, we should do it now
Well,
if we can.
Oh.
I don't want to end up... Yeah, it's not like spliced. It's just more wiggly than it should be.
Oh, honey, I know.
Which it wasn't, maybe because of swelling the other day. But it's not going to be like an easy thing. It's going to be like bleeding, and I don't want to, I guess, cause that kind of...
yeah, I think that would be more.
I mean, maybe this is a smaller piece, but it was a pretty major thing getting the other thing out.
Yeah, it was.
And like I said, this will probably try to work its way out a little bit even. And I'll probably at least put a couple more. Might not be able to get that middle part closed all the way. Try.
So there was some discussion about whether or not another piece of bone did need to be taken out. That unfortunately would have to be done in the vet clinic if that is the case. As of right now, we are leaving it in there and we are going to just take it day by day. He has been improving daily, so we are hopeful that he will be able to make a pretty good recovery from this, because obviously we do not want to put him through anything more traumatic.
But
Smoky.
you're doing so good, sweetheart.
Nice picture of us. Oh,
You're
wow.
doing so good. We're so proud of you.
He was very... So drainage too, but
Is that what that is? I
Yeah.
was curious what it was.
yeah.
I've seen them in, but I've never seen anyone put them in, so I don't know how they would. Such a good boy, buddy. You're so good.
Bandage.
Goodies. I know. Good boy, bud.
Easy, Joseph, buddy.
Yeah.
After he was stitched up and when he started to wake up from the sedation, once again his eye was just super swollen from everything that had happened. So he had a moment where he really couldn't see at all, and it was very scary for him once again. This time he did not completely freak out. He did spin a few times in his stall and call out to his friends, but he was able to kind of settle himself, and he was almost kind of like shut down. Later that evening, we were able to cut the bandage a bit to kind of relieve some of the pressure from the bandage, and then some of the swelling went down, so he was able to kind of see just a little bit of a sliver, but it was good enough that he came right out of his shell from being shut down and started eating, and was just so much happier that he could see. So that was great. So this happened on Saturday, and the vet came out for the emergency on Saturday. The vet came back on Monday to take the gauze out and stitch the entire wound up. And then she came back again on Wednesday to take the bandage off and to take some x-rays to see if there was any other damage. And she also checked out his jaw for us, just to make sure there was no issue there. Thankfully, nothing else came up on the x-rays that we weren't already aware of. So that was really, really great news. And in the beginning, he didn't want to eat any hay or really chew. So now he is chewing again and eating hay normally. So that is all just wonderful. And this is what Smokey's eye looks like today. The swelling has definitely gone down, and he is acting like his normal self. He's actually being super sweet and cuddly, and definitely looking for treats. We are going to be taking out that drain in the next couple days, but please send all of the positive vibes and prayers so that he may heal quickly, because he is very much loved here at the farm.